The marble halls of the Imperial Council, aboard the dreadnought, obsidian throne, gleamed under the artificial light. The vast chamber was designed to intimidate, with soaring ceilings and polished surfaces that reflected the stars visible through the panoramic viewports. Council members from various star empires had gathered, their distinct physiologies and cultural markers on display as they took their positions around the massive circular table. Ambassador Relea stood before them, her slender Alarian frame tense with urgency. The bluish tint of her skin appeared paler than usual, whether from the harsh lighting or from stress. It was difficult to tell. Her large, reflective eyes scanned the faces of those present, searching for any sign of receptiveness. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice modulated to project confidence despite her inner turmoil. "I come before you with information of grave importance. 7 advanced species have lost ships near the Sol system, specifically in proximity to the 3rd planet, Earth. These disappearances are not random incidents, but part of a pattern that warrants our immediate attention and caution." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Grand Admiral Torek, the Zelkarian military leader whose scales shimmered with a metallic iridescence, leaned forward. His reputation as a tactical genius was matched only by his pride in the Empire's military might. "Ambassador," he said, his voice a deep rumble that silenced the chamber. "Your concern is noted, but perhaps misplaced. The primitive inhabitants of Earth pose no threat to our technology. Their most advanced weaponry consists of nuclear missiles and rudimentary space stations. The Empire has faced far greater challenges." Relea's inner eyelids flickered, an Alarian sign of frustration. "With respect, Admiral, I have compiled detailed reports of these incidents. The Vexori expedition, the Kral scientific vessel, the Tirna trade convoy, all vanished without distress signals. Their last recorded positions were within Earth's gravitational influence." "Coincidence," scoffed a Drazkor representative, his tendrils writhing with dismissive energy. "Space is vast, and dangers numerous. The pattern is too precise for coincidence," Relea countered, projecting a holographic star chart above the table. Red markers indicated the last known positions of the missing vessels, forming an unmistakable perimeter around Earth. "Moreover, our long-range scanners detect energy signatures inconsistent with Earth's known technological level." "Inconsistent how?" asked a Meridian counselor, her crystalline form refracting light as she shifted position. "Quantum fluctuations that suggest advanced phase technology, far beyond what humans should possess." Grand Admiral Torek rose to his full imposing height, towering over most present. "The Empire has monitored Earth for centuries. They are fractious, tribal, and technologically stunted. If they possessed such technology, they would have unified their planet and reached beyond their solar system. They have done neither." Relea's voice took on an edge of desperation. "That is precisely what concerns me, Admiral. The discrepancy between their apparent development and these energy readings suggests deception. I propose we send diplomatic envoys first, not a conquest fleet. The resources of Earth, its water, minerals, and biological diversity would be valuable additions to the Empire," interjected the Zelkarian Chancellor, whose ornate robes and elaborate headdress marked her as one of the highest-ranking officials present. "We cannot allow fear of primitives to dictate our expansion policy." The debate continued for hours, with Relea presenting evidence and the majority of the Council dismissing her concerns. Grand Admiral Torek was particularly vocal, his tactical arguments carrying significant weight among the military-minded representatives. As the session neared its conclusion, the Emperor's holographic form materialized above the central dais. The massive projection showed only the silhouette of the Emperor's distinctive crest, a protocol meant to maintain the mystique of imperial power. "The Council has heard sufficient arguments," the Emperor's modulated voice announced. Earth represents a strategic position and valuable resources. The Grand Admiral's conquest armada will proceed as planned. Ambassador Relaya's caution is noted, but the glory of the Empire must not be delayed by unsubstantiated fears. Relaya's shoulders slumped imperceptibly. She had failed to convince them. As the council members began to disperse, she approached Admiral Torek. "You have made a grave mistake, Admiral," she said quietly. "Earth is not what it seems." Torek's scaled lips curled in what passed for a Zelkarian smile. "I have conquered 27 worlds. Ambassador, Earth will be the 28th, and perhaps the easiest yet." "Then I formally request to accompany your fleet as an observer," Relaya said, straightening her posture. "If I am wrong, I wish to witness it firsthand." Torek considered her for a moment, then nodded. "Granted, your presence will serve as testimony to the Empire's inevitable victory." As Relaya departed the chamber, she touched a concealed communicator on her wrist. "They didn't listen," she whispered to an unseen recipient. "Prepare contingency protocols. The invasion proceeds." The massive Zelkarian fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. A constellation of deadly metal and energy that dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed. Over 500 warships, ranging from nimble destroyers to the colossal dreadnought, Obsidian Throne, spread out in perfect formation as they began their approach toward Earth. From the command bridge of his flagship, Grand Admiral Torek observed the blue-green planet growing larger on the view screen. Ambassador Relaya stood silently beside him, her expression unreadable. "Primitive, but not without a certain beauty," Torek remarked, gesturing toward Earth. "It is almost a shame we must subjugate it." "There is still time to reconsider," Relaya said quietly. "We could initiate diplomatic contact." Torek's laugh was harsh. "Diplomacy is a luxury afforded to equals. Ambassador, Earth is not our equal." He turned to his communications officer. "Broadcast the surrender ultimatum on all frequencies they are capable of receiving." The officer complied, and soon the Empire's message was transmitting to every electronic device on Earth capable of reception. In every major language of the planet, the same declaration echoed: surrender or face obliteration. The response came quickly, a barrage of nuclear missiles launched from silos across Earth's surface, accompanied by fighter jets scrambling from military bases and a cacophony of radio transmissions filled with defiance and fear. "As expected," Torek said, almost bored. "Tactical. Eliminate their first wave." The Zelkarian fleet's point defense systems activated. Lasers slicing through Earth's missiles long before they could reach the alien armada. Fighter jets were swatted from the sky by automated defensive drones. "Begin orbital bombardment," Torek commanded. "Target their military installations first, then government centers. Standard conquest protocol." Orbital lasers and kinetic projectiles rained down on Earth's surface. Explosions bloomed across continents as humanity's defenses crumbled under the onslaught. Or so it seemed. "Admiral," called out a sensor officer, her voice tinged with confusion. "Energy fluctuations detected in low Earth orbit." Before Torek could request clarification, the space around several Zelkarian cruisers distorted. Vessels previously invisible to their sensors materialized. Sleek, angular ships with no visible propulsion systems. Beams of coherent energy lanced out from these phantom craft, slicing through the hulls of 3 Zelkarian warships as if they were made of paper. "Impossible!" Torek snarled, slamming his fist on the command console. "Where did they come from? Why weren't they detected?" More human ships appeared, seemingly phasing into existence from nowhere. The Zelkarian formation, designed to combat primitive missile technology, found itself suddenly vulnerable to attacks from multiple vectors. "All ships, regroup and establish defensive perimeter," Torek ordered, his earlier confidence giving way to tactical focus. "Launch all fighters. Target those phantom vessels." Ambassador Relaya watched silently as chaos erupted across the command bridge. The admiral's face was a mask of growing concern as reports flooded in of additional Zelkarian ships destroyed or disabled by weapons that seemed to bypass their most advanced shielding. "Admiral," Relaya said softly, "perhaps we should withdraw and reassess." "The Empire does not retreat," Torek growled, though his eyes never left the tactical display where more enemy ships continued to appear. "Prepare ground invasion forces. If we cannot win in space, we will crush them on their own soil." Despite the unexpected resistance in orbit, thousands of drop pods were launched toward Earth's surface, targeting major population centers: New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow, and dozens of other cities. Each pod contained heavily armored Zelkarian shock troops, equipped with energy weapons and battle stimulants. Torek turned to his second-in-command. "Commander Vex, you will lead the ground assault. Establish beachheads in these primary targets and await further orders." Commander Vex, a battle-hardened veteran with more campaigns under his belt than most officers had years of service, nodded grimly. "It will be done, Admiral. Glory to the Empire." As the drop pods streaked through Earth's atmosphere, like artificial meteors, Torek returned his attention to the space battle, which had devolved into a chaotic melee. The humans' Phantom Fleet moved with impossible agility, their weapons seemingly calibrated specifically to target Zelkarian vulnerabilities. "How could they know our shield frequencies?" muttered the weapons officer. "It's as if they've studied our technology for decades." A massive explosion rocked the obsidian throne as a human vessel twice the size of any previously seen emerged from behind Earth's moon, its weapons tearing through 3 Zelkarian capital ships in rapid succession. For the first time in his illustrious career, Grand Admiral Torek felt a cold tendril of doubt wrap around his heart. Commander Vex led his troops through the eerily deserted streets of New York City. The initial bombardment had caused significant damage to the skyline, but the expected resistance, civilians fleeing in panic, local military forces mounting desperate defenses, was conspicuously absent. "Life signs?" he asked his scanner technician. "Scattered and faint, Commander, possibly underground." Vex nodded. Underground bunkers would be a logical refuge. "Spread out. Locate access points. Standard sweep pattern." The Zelkarian troops moved with practiced precision, their heavy armor allowing them to punch through walls and vehicles as they searched for entrances to suspected underground facilities. They found nothing. "Commander," called a squad leader, "we've reached the human military installation designated Fort Hamilton. It appears abandoned." Similar reports came in from troops deployed in other cities. London's financial district stood empty. Tokyo's dense urban sprawl echoed with the footsteps of Zelkarian soldiers, but little else. "They can't have evacuated entire cities so quickly," Vex muttered, unease growing within him. "Something is wrong." The answer came in a coordinated ambush that struck all landing zones simultaneously. From concealed positions in buildings, beneath streets, and behind holographic projections that had masked their presence, human soldiers emerged. They wielded energy rifles that matched Zelkarian technology and wore armor that deflected standard energy bolts. In New York, Vex watched in shock as his front line collapsed under concentrated fire from weapons humans shouldn't possess. "Fall back to defensive positions," he ordered. "Request orbital support." His communications officer shook his head. "Orbital communications being jammed, sir." Throughout the world's major cities, the pattern repeated itself. Zelkarian troops found themselves fighting an enemy that moved like ghosts, appeared without warning, and wielded technology that neutralized their advantages. In London, an entire Zelkarian battalion was disabled when the ground beneath them suddenly revealed itself to be a massive trapdoor, dropping the alien soldiers into containment chambers. In Tokyo, cloaked vehicles materialized on streets, disgorging human special forces who moved with augmented speed that matched the Zelkarians' own enhanced reflexes. Aboard the Obsidian Throne, Grand Admiral Torek received fragmented reports of the ground invasion's failure. The space battle had reached a stalemate, with the Zelkarian fleet forming a defensive sphere around the flagship, while human vessels continued to appear and disappear, striking with surgical precision before phasing out of detectability. "Admiral," the security chief's voice came through the internal communication system. "We have intruders aboard, multiple decks. They've bypassed all security protocols." Before Torek could respond, the bridge doors slid open. A group of humans in sleek combat suits entered, their weapons held ready but not firing. At their center walked a woman with an air of authority. Her dark hair was streaked with silver, and her eyes held a depth of knowledge that caught Torek off guard. "Grand Admiral Torek," she said in perfect Zelkarian, without any translation device visible. "I am Dr. Samantha Reeves, Director of Earth Defense. Your ship is now under our control. All weapon systems have been neutralized, and an energy barrier surrounds your vessel, cutting it off from the rest of your fleet." Torek's hand moved toward his sidearm, but he found himself unable to draw it. Some invisible force held his arm immobile. "That would be unwise, Admiral," Dr. Reeves said calmly. "We have no desire to harm you or your crew, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Ambassador Relaya stepped forward. "Dr. Reeves," she said with a slight bow, "I am Ambassador Relaya of Alaria. I attempted to warn the Council about Earth's true nature." "We know," Reeves replied with a nod of acknowledgement. "Your efforts are appreciated, though ultimately unsuccessful." Torek looked between the two women, comprehension dawning. "You knew," he accused Relaya. "You knew what we would find here." "I suspected," Relaya corrected, "based on the evidence I presented to the Council, evidence you dismissed." "Admiral Torek," Dr. Reeves interjected, "you and select members of your command staff are invited to accompany me to our primary facility. There is much you need to understand about Earth and humanity's place in the galaxy." "And if I refuse?" Torek challenged. Reeves smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then you will remain here, in a ship you no longer control, while we continue this conversation with someone more amenable to reality." Torek's pride warred with his tactical sense. Finally, the latter won out. "Very well. I will hear what you have to say." Dr. Reeves led Grand Admiral Torek, Ambassador Relaya, and 3 senior Zelkarian officers through a transportation portal, technology that should have been beyond human capability. They emerged in a vast underground complex carved into the Rocky Mountains, a facility that hummed with energy and activity. Scientists and military personnel moved purposefully through the halls, paying little attention to the alien visitors. The walls were lined with technology that appeared to be a hybrid of multiple species designs, seamlessly integrated. "Welcome to Chimera Base," Dr. Reeves said, gesturing to their surroundings. "One of Earth's primary defense and research facilities, though far from our only one." She led them into a large, circular chamber dominated by a holographic projection system. With a wave of her hand, she activated it, and a detailed star map materialized around them. "What you are about to learn will challenge everything you believe about humanity and your own history." Reeves began. Earth was not always humanity's only home. The star map zoomed in on a cluster of systems near the galactic core. 50,000 years ago, humanity had a thriving interstellar civilization in this region. We were one of the younger spacefaring species, but we were peaceful explorers and traders, until we encountered the architects. The hologram shifted to show bizarre, geometrically complex structures that seemed to defy conventional physics. The architects were an ancient species, possibly the first intelligent life in our galaxy. They had evolved beyond physical form and existed as energy beings with technology that appeared godlike to us. Initially, they seemed benevolent, sharing knowledge and resources. Reeves' expression darkened. Then we discovered their true purpose. The architects were conducting experiments in species development, guiding evolution, manipulating genetics, and engineering conflicts to study the results. Dozens of species, including yours, Admiral Torek, were part of their grand experiment. Torek's scales flared in outrage. Preposterous! The Zelkarian Empire built itself through strength and determination. The Zelkarian biological drive for conquest was artificially enhanced by the architects, Reeves countered. Just as the Alarian's diplomatic nature was cultivated for balance. She nodded to Relaya. Your people were designed as mediators, meant to slow, but never stop the conflicts the architects wished to observe. The hologram shifted again, showing ancient battles and star systems in flames. When humanity discovered this manipulation, we rebelled. We shared our findings with other species, formed alliances, and fought back. The war was catastrophic, with entire systems destroyed. In the end, the architects were driven from this galaxy, but at a terrible cost. If what you say is true, Relaya interjected, why is Earth not mentioned in any galactic records? Why do all species believe humans are primitive? Because that was our punishment, Reeves explained, her voice tight with old anger. The architect's final act was to wipe all memory of advanced human civilization from the records and minds of other species. They used their technology to transport the surviving humans to Earth, a prison world at the edge of explored space, and manipulated the memories of our own people to forget our past. The hologram now showed Earth, surrounded by complex energy patterns. They established a perception filter around our solar system, ensuring that any species that observed us would see only what the architects wanted them to see. A primitive world slowly developing, centuries behind the galactic standard. But you remember now, Torek said, his tone less confrontational, as the implications sank in. Reeves nodded. 15,000 years ago, we began to break through the mental blocks. Archaeological discoveries that didn't match our supposed history. Technologies that seemed to develop too intuitively, as if we were remembering rather than inventing. By 10,000 years ago, we had recovered significant portions of our true history. Yet you maintained the illusion of being primitive, Relaya observed. Why? Protection, Reeves said simply. We knew the architects had programmed other species to eventually come for Earth, to test us, to continue the experiment even in their absence. If we revealed our true capabilities too soon, before we had fully recovered our ancient knowledge, we would be vulnerable. The hologram changed to show the gradual development of human civilization, but with annotations revealing hidden technological advances occurring in parallel to the public-facing history. While we built pyramids above ground, we were constructing quantum computers below. While the world watched our first primitive steps into space, we were already establishing bases throughout our solar system and beyond, all concealed by phase technology derived from our recovered knowledge. Torek's expression had transformed from skepticism to a mixture of awe and horror. The missing ships, he said. The 7 species Ambassador Relaya mentioned. Test cases, Reeves confirmed. Scout ships sent by other empires, compelled by the architects' programming to investigate Earth. We captured them, studied their technology, and eventually, when we determined they posed no threat, returned their crews with modified memories. We were preparing for the day when a full invasion force would arrive. She fixed Torek with a penetrating gaze. Your invasion force, Admiral. The Grand Admiral was silent for a long moment, processing the implications. Finally, he asked, why reveal this to me now? Why not simply destroy our fleet? Because the cycle must end, Reeves said firmly. The architects' manipulations have caused enough suffering. Your people were used as pawns, just as we were. We want allies, not enemies. Ambassador Relaya stepped forward. You knew I would try to warn the Council. You knew they wouldn't listen. We hoped they might, but we prepared for the likelihood they wouldn't. Reeves acknowledged. The architect's programming runs deep. We needed to demonstrate our capabilities conclusively, to break through millennia of conditioning. Torek's second-in-command, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. Our troops on the ground, are they dead? No, Reeves assured him. They have been captured using non-lethal methods. We have casualties among our own forces, but we took great care to minimize deaths on both sides. I would like to see them, the officer requested. Of course, Captain Novak will escort you. Reeves gestured to a tall, muscular human who had entered the chamber silently. Captain Lee Novak nodded respectfully to the Zelkarian officers. If you'll follow me, I can take you to your troops and show you their conditions. They are being treated according to interstellar conventions on prisoners of war. As the second-in-command and two other officers followed Novak, Torek remained with Relia and Dr. Reeves. What happens now? The Grand Admiral asked, his voice subdued. Now, Reeves said, we negotiate the terms of the Zelkarian Empire's withdrawal and the beginnings of a new relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than conquest. Torek's pride visibly warred with his strategic assessment of the situation. The Emperor will not accept defeat. Then perhaps it is time for new leadership, Relea suggested quietly. The revelation of the architect's manipulation affects all species. It is an opportunity to break free from programmed behaviors and forge our own destiny. In the detention area, Captain Novak led the Zelkarian officers through rows of containment fields, where their troops were held. The soldiers appeared unharmed, though clearly disoriented by their rapid defeat. Your troops will be returned to you once agreements are reached, Novak explained. They have been treated with dignity. The Zelkarian second-in-command, Commander Vex, observed the human soldiers guarding the facility. Their discipline was impeccable, their equipment a fascinating blend of technologies from multiple worlds. You fight well, Vex acknowledged. Better than we expected. We've had 50,000 years to prepare, Novak replied without arrogance. And necessity is a powerful motivator. Your people could have destroyed us, Vex noted. Why show restraint? Novak stopped walking and turned to face the commander directly. Because we remember what it was like to be manipulated, to have our choices taken from us. We won't perpetuate that cycle. Every species deserves the chance to choose their own path forward. Vex considered this. In Zelkarian culture, mercy is often seen as weakness. And how has that belief served your people? Novak asked. Has it brought you happiness, fulfillment, genuine security, or just endless wars and the constant need to prove yourselves through conquest? The commander had no immediate answer. Back in the command center, Dr. Reeves had expanded the holographic display to show the current state of the space battle. The Zelkarian fleet remained in defensive formation around the Obsidian throne, though the flagship itself was clearly under human control. Your fleet commanders are awaiting orders, Reeves told Torek. They're confused and concerned by the lack of communication from you. What do you propose? Torek asked, his tone cautious. Address them. Tell them the truth. Begin the process of breaking the architect's hold on your people. Torek straightened his posture, his pride reasserting itself. And if I instead order them to continue the attack? Then you will have proven that you value the architect's programming over the welfare of your own people, Relea said sharply. They cannot win this battle. Admiral, you've seen enough to know that. Torek was silent for a long moment, his internal struggle visible in the tension of his powerful frame. Finally, he nodded. Open a channel to my fleet. Dr. Reeves gestured to a communications officer, who established the connection. The holographic display shifted to show the faces of Torek's fleet commanders, their expressions a mixture of concern and determination. This is Grand Admiral Torek, he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. I am aboard the human command facility. I have been shown evidence that changes everything we believed about our mission here. He proceeded to explain what he had learned, The architect's manipulation, humanity's true history, the perception filter that had hidden Earth's advanced civilization. As he spoke, the faces of his commanders registered shock, disbelief, and growing uncertainty. "I have verified these claims personally," Torek concluded. "The humans have technology that equals or exceeds our own. They could have destroyed our fleet but chose restraint. In light of these revelations, I am ordering an immediate cessation of hostilities and withdrawal to the outer solar system while negotiations proceed." There was silence from the fleet commanders. Then one spoke. "Admiral, with respect, this sounds like coercion. How do we know you are not under duress?" "A fair question," Torek acknowledged. "I will transmit authentication code, Zelkar Prime 93, which cannot be coerced as it is linked to my neural patterns." He input a complex sequence into the communication terminal. The commanders visibly relaxed as the code verified. "Orders acknowledged, Admiral." The senior fleet commander responded, ceasing hostilities and withdrawing to designated coordinates. As the transmission ended, Torek turned to Dr. Reeves. "Your demonstration has been effective, Doctor, but convincing my fleet is the least of our challenges. The Emperor and the Council will not be so easily persuaded." "Which is why we need to present a united front," Reeves replied. "Ambassador Relea has already begun coordinating with other species who have suspected the truth about the architects. With your testimony added to ours, we have a chance to break the cycle of manipulation for all galactic species." "It will mean civil war within the Empire," Torek said grimly. "Perhaps," Relea interjected. "Or perhaps it will mean evolution. The truth has power, Admiral. Once known, it cannot be unknown." Over the following days, while the Zelkarian fleet maintained its position at the edge of the solar system, negotiations proceeded in the Rocky Mountain facility. Captain Novak and Commander Vex worked together to coordinate the return of captured troops, while Dr. Reeves and Grand Admiral Torek, with Ambassador Relea's mediation, drafted terms for a permanent peace. During a brief recess, Torek found himself alone with Captain Novak in an observation room overlooking a massive hangar where human ships were being prepared for departure. "Where are they going?" Torek asked, gesturing to the vessels. "Various destinations throughout the galaxy," Novak replied. "Now that our secret is revealed, there's no reason to remain hidden. Some will establish diplomatic contacts with species we've monitored, but never officially met. Others will investigate regions where architect technology might still exist." "You trust me with this information?" Torek seemed surprised. Novak studied the Admiral for a moment. "Dr. Reeves believes you are capable of growth beyond your programming. I've fought enough battles to know that sometimes the fiercest enemies can become the strongest allies. In Zelkarian military history, there are tales of great rivals who eventually joined forces," Torek admitted. "Though such accounts are rare, perhaps because they contradicted the architect's intentions," Novak suggested. Torek nodded slowly. "I've been reviewing our historical records since learning the truth. There are patterns, inexplicable biological drives toward expansion and conquest that appear almost overnight in our evolutionary timeline. Moments where peaceful solutions were inexplicably rejected despite clear advantages." He sighed heavily. "How much blood has been spilled because we were dancing to strings we couldn't see?" "The past cannot be changed," Novak said, "but the future is unwritten." As they watched the preparations below, Torek asked, "Your people remained hidden for so long. Was there never a temptation to strike first? To eliminate potential threats before they arrived?" "The debate was heated," Novak acknowledged. "There were factions who advocated for preemptive strikes, for using our recovered technology to establish dominance before others could threaten us. But in the end, we recognized that would make us no better than the architects, manipulating other species for our own purposes." "A restraint not all would show," Torek observed. Perhaps that's why the architects feared us enough to imprison us, Novak suggested. Not because of our technology, but because we rejected their philosophy of manipulation and control. 3 weeks after the failed invasion, a delegation departed Earth for the Galactic Council. The group included Dr. Reeves, Ambassador Relia, Grand Admiral Torek, and representatives from several other species who had come to accept the truth about Earth and the architects. The Obsidian Throne, now under joint human-Zelkarian command, transported them to the council station. As they approached, communications channels exploded with demands for explanation. The Emperor himself had convened an emergency session to address what was being described as Torek's treasonous behavior and the unprecedented defeat of Imperial forces. The vast council chamber fell silent as the delegation entered. The Emperor's holographic form dominated the central dais, his actual location kept secret as always. Grand Admiral Torek, the Emperor's modulated voice boomed. You stand accused of dereliction of duty and collusion with an enemy of the Empire. How do you answer these charges? Torek stepped forward, his posture straight and proud. I answer them with truth, Your Majesty. A truth that will disturb and challenge all present, but one that must be heard. For the next hour, the delegation presented their evidence. Dr. Reeves displayed recovered architect technologies and historical records. Ambassador Relea shared findings from other species who had begun to break free from their programmed behaviors. And Torek himself testified to what he had witnessed on Earth and the revelations about the Zelkarian Empire's manufactured drive for conquest. The council chamber erupted into chaos as the implications became clear. Some representatives reacted with outrage, others with disbelief, and a few with quiet recognition, as if pieces of a puzzle they had long contemplated finally fit together. Silence, the Emperor commanded, and the chamber quieted. These claims are extraordinary and disturbing. If true, they change the foundation of our understanding of galactic history. They are true, Your Majesty, Torek affirmed. I have verified them personally, at great cost to my pride but in service to the greater truth our people deserve to know. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then, in an unprecedented move, the holographic projection dissolved, and a physical door at the rear of the imperial dais opened. Through it stepped the Emperor himself, smaller in actual stature than his projected image suggested, but with an unmistakable aura of authority. In 10,000 years of imperial rule, he said, his natural voice higher, but no less commanding. No emperor has physically attended council. Today warrants an exception. He descended to the council floor and approached the delegation. Dr. Reeves, he addressed the human scientist directly. Your people have shown remarkable restraint in victory. You could have destroyed our fleet, but chose not to. Why? Because true victory isn't measured in ships destroyed or worlds conquered, Reeves answered. It's measured in cycles broken and futures reclaimed. The architects wanted us to fight, to perpetuate their experiment even in their absence. We choose a different path. The Emperor studied her, then turned to Torek. And you, Admiral, your loyalty to the Empire has never been questioned. Yet you stand with them now. I stand with truth, Your Majesty, Torek replied, and with the hope that our people can evolve beyond the limitations placed upon us by beings who saw us as nothing more than laboratory specimens. Deliberations continued for days. The evidence was examined, questioned, and verified by experts from multiple species. Throughout the proceedings, more representatives came forward with their own anomalous findings. Unexplained evolutionary leaps, cultural shifts that seemed artificially induced, ancient technologies that didn't fit the established timeline of development. Finally, the Emperor addressed the council again. The evidence is irrefutable. For millennia, we have been pawns in a game we didn't know we were playing. The question now is, What do we do with this knowledge? Ambassador Relaya stepped forward. I propose a new alliance, not the forced unity of conquest, but a voluntary association of species dedicated to uncovering the full extent of the architect's manipulation and ensuring it never happens again. Earth offers its knowledge and technology freely to this alliance. Dr. Reeves added, We have spent 50,000 years recovering from the architect's imprisonment. We have no desire to see others suffer under their legacy. The Emperor considered this. And the Empire? What role do you envision for us in this new order? A vital one, Torek answered, before either woman could speak. Our military prowess, redirected toward protection rather than conquest, would be an essential component of any alliance. Our fleets could serve as guardians against threats, both known and yet to be discovered. Discussions continued for weeks, with delegations from Earth meeting with representatives from dozens of species. Not all were convinced. Some rejected the evidence outright, clinging to the familiar narratives of their history. Others accepted the truth but resisted the proposed alliance, fearing the loss of autonomy or advantage. Yet slowly, a new framework began to emerge. The Galactic Concordat, as it came to be known, established principles of mutual defense, knowledge sharing, and collaborative research into the architect's legacy. Earth, no longer hidden behind its perception filter, opened its borders to diplomatic missions and cultural exchanges. 6 months after the failed invasion, Grand Admiral Torek, now serving as the Zelkarian ambassador to Earth, stood on a platform at the new Geneva spaceport, watching as the first joint human-Zelkarian research vessel prepared for launch. Beside him stood Captain Novak, recently promoted to oversee interspecies military cooperation. If someone had told me a year ago that I would be standing here, celebrating a partnership with humans instead of conquering them, I would have had them tested for brain parasites, Torek remarked. Novak laughed. And if someone had told me I'd be working alongside the admiral who tried to invade Earth, I'd have had similar thoughts. The massive ship, named Architect's Folly, in a pointed rejection of their manipulators, represented the pinnacle of combined technological knowledge. Its mission, to explore regions of the galaxy where other architect installations might exist and help species still trapped in programmed behaviors. Do you think we'll find them? Torek asked. The architects themselves? Perhaps, Novak replied. Though I suspect they've moved on to other galaxies, other experiments. But their legacy remains here, and understanding it is the first step to truly breaking free. Ambassador Relaya approached, having just arrived from a council session. The Drazkor have finally agreed to join the Concordat, she announced. That makes 23 species now committed to the alliance. And the holdouts? Torek inquired. Still resistant, but increasingly isolated, Relaya said. The evidence continues to mount as more ancient sites are discovered and decoded. As they watch the Architect's Folly lift off, its advanced drives creating barely a ripple in the atmosphere. Dr. Reeves joined their group. A historic day, she observed. The first of many, I hope. It still amazes me, Torek admitted. How quickly humans adapted to galactic society after 50,000 years of isolation. We were never truly isolated, Reeves corrected gently. We were watching, learning, preparing. The trap the architects built became our sanctuary, a place where we could develop without interference, recover our lost knowledge, and ultimately emerge stronger than before. A lesson for us all, Relaya noted. Sometimes what appears to be a punishment can become an opportunity, if viewed with the right perspective. As Earth's hidden fleet dispersed among the stars, not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals in a new galactic community, humanity's long imprisonment ended. The trap had failed. The experiment had produced results the architects never intended. And throughout the galaxy, species began the long process of discovering who they truly were, beyond the manipulations of their creators. Torek, watching the stars with new eyes, found himself reflecting on an ancient Zelkarian proverb. The strongest chains are those we do not know we wear. For the first time in the history of intelligent life in the galaxy, those chains were visible, and what could be seen could be broken. The universe, vast and mysterious, continued its expansion, but within it, the species of the Milky Way had begun a new journey, one of their own choosing, at last.